Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremiahjerems, and I was thinking that I could try and expand the reviews and whatnot, like kind of make them a little different. Because currently, I've always been reviewing products, and this is not something I'm going to be reviewing. This is just ice cream from Chick-fil-A. Had it a billion times. Love it. But I was wondering maybe I could do reviews of other sort of things, not just savory foods like I did that one time with the baking thing, but also, I don't know, other things, maybe non-food things, and and I think this might be the first one, a movie. So I'm gonna try and keep this a short video. I'm not gonna really go too big into the plot line, but I'm gonna express my opinion and parts that stood out to me, and I'm gonna keep it as short as I possibly can. And there may be some spoiler alerts. So there may be some spoilers. So spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie and you really want to see it, you gotta go see it. Okay, a great movie. Honestly, in my opinion, I think it's a great movie. And one of the first things I'll say is that it definitely shows you that Marvel has mastered how to make a movie. Now, of course, there are some parts that are predictable, and then there are other parts that they'll come out of the blue. I can't remember any of the guys, anyone's name in this movie because I can't freaking pronounce any of them. But brain farted once again. I always have a brain fart when I'm trying to talk about something, and I don't have any source material in front of me. These reviews I just do on the fly, so. You enjoy that head, Mr. Burger. There was one guy at the beginning of the movie who was like basically an arms dealer, and he had, of course, spoiler alert. Okay, I'm about to get into some spoilers, but all right, he was basically some sort of very advanced arms dealer. And he had, I believe it was his left arm was prosthetic, and basically it could turn into an arm cannon, which was really cool. But he dies like a third into the movie, and the protagonist switches to this other guy who seems to be newly introduced and didn't seem to have that much of a part, and I would have liked him, and I was thinking about halfway through, he didn't really have the best introduction, but then we realized they kind of hid his story. And it turned out he was a kid back when basically at the very beginning. It's actually a flashback scene, and you'll figure that out later in the movie. But he's basically a kid at that point, because of events that subsue, which you'll find out when you watch the movie if you haven't. And you're still going to sit through spoilers. He ends up becoming the main villain, and it's really interesting. And he ends up becoming a Black Panther as well. And so basically, they both get the actual Black Panther and this guy. By the end of the movie, they end up getting their own Black Panther suits that basically are just necklaces, and then they'll basically form into the suit, which is it looks really cool, and of course cinematics great. You can always count on Marvel, which kind of made me think by the end of the movie that, I mean, it started making me think all these Marvel movies, they have a lot of CGI. And so I thought back, what Marvel movie used the least amount of CGI? And I looked back, and I probably have to say the first Captain America movie, because that was the last film Marvel Studios made before they got bought out by Disney. And their budget was kind of running a little low at that point compared to how they used to be doing. And so their CGI was not as broad as it was in the Iron Man or Thor movie. And even then, CGI, I'm pretty sure before, I'm pretty sure like the Incredible Hulk movie and Iron Man used a good amount of CGI. Thor and Captain America, on the other hand, their first movies, they didn't use as much CGI. Well, Thor used quite a lot. I mean, there was Asgard. So, but Captain America, most of the special effects had to do with basically the guns being fired off and people getting disintegrated by these things, and also the giant jet and whatnot. There's this one guy, he's like literally the only white guy who's on the screen the majority of the time, and he's basically a retired pilot who's now a CIA agent, and they find him in this underground Korean casino. It's really weird, but he ends up getting caught up in this whole mess. Gets taken to Wakanda, which basically I think like the only white guy ever to step in Wakanda, at least the hidden part, and you'll figure that out eventually. And there's one part where they have the ability to take control of vehicles with these small devices they'll just throw onto a vehicle like a car, and then they can control it from a headquarters or something. And they can control that car. In his instance, he was basically controlling this retired pilot, basically. He was in this room and was basically controlling this advanced ship and whatnot. And as he was doing that, he was trying to take out these other ships that were trying to leave to Wakanda to give out weapons to other countries. Basically to the people who were impoverished so they could fight the more wealthy, which... socialism. But, yeah. But one thing that was interesting was, it probably was the most confusing scene in the movie. While he was in that simulation of flying the jet and whatnot, or this, I don't know, it was an aircraft of some sort, obviously fictional. But as he was flying it, there was also this aircraft that was trying to shoot through like the very thick armored glass or whatnot in the place that he was in, and it came down to a very tense cliffhanger, but he ended up destroying all the ships trying to escape. I guess you'll see him in the after credit scene, like the first after credit scene, because of course there are two after credit scenes. Second after credit scene, if you are into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you have to stay for the second after credit scene. Seriously. It's very interesting. I won't say anything about it, though. But basically, by the way they play it off, it looks like he dies because the thing ends up blowing up the entire thing, just as it looks like he's trying to escape. But then after credit scene, he's there. So I guess they would just explain why he got out in time. The one thing would have been interesting, and maybe this could have been something cool they could do, but I'm not sure. This may make some extreme Marvel fans mad, but in there, they had, in that room that he was in, they had the original Black Panther suit in there, the one that you had to put on manually. Something that maybe I would have liked to have seen as an example of how he got out was that he somehow got the suit on in time so he could survive the explosion and then took it off. But they probably would just say he got out in time. So it's kind of a bummer, because Marvel tends to do cool things like that. It just didn't come through this time. But yeah, those are really the parts that stood out to me the most. And also the fact that, like I said, the guy that you think is going to be the antagonist, I think I may have said protagonist at the beginning. The guy you think is going to be the antagonist is ends up being killed. That's it. This arms dealer with his own robotic arm. He eventually ends up losing the robotic arm, and he ends up getting killed by the guy who would become the new antagonist, who, gosh dang, he's heartless. But I can tell, though this second antagonist we get, I can definitely tell he'd be big on socialism, because basically his whole plan was to take these advanced weapons from Uganda and give them to impoverished people all over the world so they could fight back. That's socialism, and just, I'm not really going to get, man, this is how it goes. We end up, we try to just talk about a movie, and then get some politics. Because everything has become politics these days. So, I mean, frick, video games have become politics. Anytime a social justice warriors get their little grubby hands on something, it becomes politics. For some reason. Battlefield 1 became politics for like a slight moment. I'm glad it got out of that, though. COD World War II has kind of been involved in politics, but it was more of... Instead of attracting the arguments from social justice warriors, it attracted arguments from anti-social justice warriors, and also people who just generally hated the game. And I guess there are some good arguments there, but that's for another day. Man, I just went ranting on. But overall, I think it was a really good movie, and it just keeps on building up suspense. And definitely, if you're just in there to see a good movie, then you can just leave before even the first after credit scene. Unless you really want to get a full story, because I guess there is more of the story that is continued in the first after credit scene. But if you're someone who is like really wanting to know everything that happens in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, stay for both those after credit scenes, okay? I promise you, the second after credit scene is not like useless and stupid like how the second after credit scenes used to be, because like in the first Avengers movie, they had a second after credit scene and it was just them sitting down eating shawarma. And then in Spider-Man Homecoming, it was Captain America giving an announcement on uselessness. Basically saying how this announcement is like how you waited for something so disappointing. And it was so funny. It was really funny, but for this one, stay to the second after credit scene, because you will, if you are into this, you do not want to miss it, alright? But that's really all I really have to say. There's still a lot more of the movie than what I explained, but those are the parts that stuck out to me and that I wanted to talk about. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this little review, and of course, watch the movie yourself and make up your own opinion on the movie. I really liked it. I like Marvel's keeping consistencies, and more often than not, it's very predictable what's going to happen in the movies, but every once in a while, like with this one, they'll throw in a little things here and there that you did not predict, and I like that. The story is overall predictable. The good guys are going to win in the end, and you can kind of predict how that may play out, but sometimes it's just a little different how they do it either way. And of course, they always build up some sort of suspense between the protagonist and antagonist, and in this one, the protagonist almost dies. Just like he does in almost every Marvel movie ever, protagonist almost dies. So, anyway, see y'all another time.